Mike's a copper solo queue player that's having a tough time ranking up. Luckily for him, he's about to learn 5 concepts that will take him from copper all the way to champion. As a copper, Mike loads into each game and tries his best to win, but it seems nearly impossible because of the terrible teammates he's constantly getting matched with. No matter how he performs on the scoreboard, he still loses. This makes him feel pretty powerless, frustrated, and even hopeless at times. It's like he can't do anything to rank up. But what Mike doesn't know is that he's also being held back by the paradox of trying to win. And this is the first concept that I wish someone had explained to me sooner. You see, Mike's playing to win. Why wouldn't he? If you've never stopped to ask yourself this question, then you'd be in the exact same position I was 5 years ago. Here's the thing though, playing to win can actually stunt your growth as a player. For me, I used to pick the same operators for each bomb site and do strategies that I had learned as a beginner. I wanted to win over everything else, which naturally makes sense. But the more that I wanted it, the more emotional I got over the game. As my desire to win increased, the more angry I would get at my teammates. But it also meant I relied on the strategies that I knew the best. As a result, the more I wanted to win, the less I would learn. Because of this, I was missing out on so much potential that was sitting there waiting for me, and Mike is doing the exact same thing. But by switching our focus from winning to learning, we can become way better at the game. And when we're way better, we win more. Paradoxically, the less we focus on winning, the more we actually win. Take a look at this square. It represents how you play R6, or anything for that matter. The red area represents what you already know about the game. Different strategies, operators, philosophies, anything you use to win. The green area though is how much you're open to learning and experimenting. It represents your curiosity within the game. But what I didn't mention is that the green part is also your potential, while the red is your stagnation. By doing what you already know, you're not progressing anywhere, you're not learning very much. But by shifting your focus from winning to learning, you'll discover what you could know. And the more you discover, the better of a player you'll become. But if you're like me, there's one small problem. You don't want to lose. And this is the paradox. If you're trying new things and trying to learn, you're not going to be as effective as when you're sticking to what you know. You could try practicing and learning in an unranked playlist, but it's not going to be quite as effective as practicing it in ranked against players of similar skill. So by playing to learn, you're also losing more, but by playing to win, you're not getting any better. So which one do you choose? Well, if you continue playing to win, you'll probably stay around the same rank over a longer period of time. But if you play to learn, you'll actually get better at the game. The better you become, and the more you learn, the stronger you'll be as an individual player. Let's go back to that chart for a second. Now that you've spent the time learning, once you do want to start winning, you can just take this red area and shift it back to the main priority. Only this time, you'll notice that you've got a whole lot more in your playbook than when you were here before. That time practicing and learning has made you a better player. Shifting between these states continues your growth as a player, but it will also show you that what you've learned has actually made you better. And if you have truly improved, your rank games will be much easier to win as you effectively carry your team to victory. After all, this is how Mike finally made it out of copper and got to bronze. But wait a sec, Mike is in the middle of the scoreboard. This isn't carrying his team. You told me he learned and got better. This is a bunch of crap. Well, it turns out Mike actually already started to learn the second concept of this video, the power of time. In R6, time is a whole strategy in itself, but it has one main problem which tends to lead players away from it. It's ugly, boring, and feels kind of unrewarding. Let me give you 2 options for a moment. The first is you go around taking out the entire attacking team one by one. Your aim is better than ever before, and those crisp headshots are just so satisfying. You get an ace and are miles ahead of your team on the scoreboard. You have just become him, and you can flex to all your friends on Snapchat just like when you got your first victory royale. This is rewarding, and it feeds into your ego. You feel good about yourself and your gameplay, and the scoreboard reinforces that belief. Now take option 2. You're playing Clash and getting in the attacker's face all round. You're slowing them down, giving calls to your team, and wasting a ton of time. By the end of the round, there's no time left and you win. Your effectiveness on the shield essentially won you the round, but there is 0 to show for it. You're not any higher on the scoreboard, and even worse, while you're not getting any kills, your teammates are because of you. By both enabling your team and playing to stall time, it's hard to determine how good you actually did. This can be a bit of an issue. When it's hard to tell how effective you're being, you might feel like you're not helping at all. And when you don't know if you actually did good or bad, it's hard to improve. But don't worry, because I'm going to help you understand the strategy of time right now so that you can use it super effectively to win way more consistently, just like Mike. Time in R6 is either in your favor or against you. If you're on defense, it's in your favor, and if you're on attack, it's against you. But if the diffuser gets planted, it flips, with time now being in favor of the attackers and against the defenders. Having time on your side is what you want because it lets you control the round. It's also why defense is so much easier than attack, because if the attackers just never enter the building, the defenders will win off time if at least one survives. What this means is the attackers need to use their time efficiently to get everything they need done in a round. The ultimate goal for them isn't to find and kill all the defenders, it's to get control of the bomb site and plant the bomb in order to put time into their advantage. If planting wasn't a thing, R6 would just be one giant game of hide and seek. But the thing is, hide and seek is actually a big part of R6, and Mike is really good at it. When the attackers are low on time and have to plant, Mike knows that he should just hide and force them to do it. If they don't have the diffuser, have to push through a bunch of traps, or just don't plant, Mike wins. Mike wins a lot like this, because most people just aren't that good at attacking. After all, attacking is a lot harder overall. Now that Mike has learned about the paradox of winning and knows how to stall time on defense, he uses that freshly absorbed knowledge to start winning on attack. On his attacks, Mike stops looking around for easy kills, but instead starts focusing on planting the bomb. He starts attacking directly for the site, using spam utility and shields to help him get way more plants down. And once those plants are down, he has time on his side again. Knowing that the defenders have to defuse in order to win, he plays hide and seek all over, except this time from positions where he can see the diffuser. As long as he stays alive, they can't defuse the bomb and Mike will win on time. The kills from these positions are much easier because there's so many different angles the defenders have to worry about. When I was less experienced, I played these post plants all wrong, being way too aggressive when I had time on my side. When time is on your side, playing passively is the best option, and when it isn't, you need to get aggressive. That's why as a defender in this situation, you need to get aggressive and find Mike in order to win, otherwise you're just gonna lose on time. And with his newfound knowledge of time and forcing wins with it, Mike had actually climbed all the way through both bronze and silver, making it to gold. But now he was having some problems, because not only was Mike better, his enemies were too. They attacked with more coordination and speed, making his defensive time stall much less effective. On his attacks, they would shut down his plan attempts and counter his pushes. Mike was starting to struggle a lot. Everything he knew had suddenly stopped working, causing him to become stagnant. But then he remembered the paradox of winning and shifted his focus back to learning once again. He studied his gameplay and realized that he needed a new approach. The fast-paced attacks and reactive defenses of gold gave him a great idea. This is something I wish someone had explained to me a whole lot sooner. Luckily for Mike, he was able to figure it out all by himself. This is the concept of map control and how it helped Mike overcome gold SoloQ and achieve a whole new level of strategy. When the attackers gain a ton of space in the map extremely quickly, it can make us feel scared to branch out of the bomb site. When I was a newer player, it was like I never knew where they could be, and the safest option felt like hiding on site and just waiting it out. But this is actually the opposite of what I should have done. If my whole team bundles up on site, it gives the attackers control of the entire map. They then have the rest of the time in the round to open up all of the walls and floors, putting your team in a nearly unwinnable position. But if your team spreads out and controls the map from the start of the round, they'll end up picking off these fast-paced attackers. Not only does this give you kills, but it maintains the control of the map. So if you're holding above the bomb site, not only can you kill that fuse that runs in with no info, but you can also hold other entrances into the site from above, leading to even more kills. For Mike, it meant learning how to roam, which for now just meant he had to leave the bomb site and hide in different spots. When the attackers came through, he'd shoot them in the back, and if they tried to rush, he'd just run back to help. But what about his attacks? Well, he wasn't taking enough space there either. His direct site pushes resulted in getting C4'd or overwhelmed while trying to plant. So he switched it up entirely and started taking map control instead. Because of the heavy site presence, a lot of the map was free for Mike to take. He'd drone something out, see that there's no defenders, and then take control of the area. Taking the space was great, because now if any defenders tried to get past him, he was there to get the kill. It turned out most of the map wasn't being used at all, allowing Mike to get in quickly and without resistance. This not only surprised the defenders, leading him to a lot of free kills, but it meant he could work the bomb site in whole new ways, whether it was opening the floor above or holding crossfires directly through the middle of the site. Now, when I was newer to R6, I was constantly just trying to stay alive on attack. I would hold angles from outside the map, praying defenders would peek into them so that I could actually get kills. When they didn't peek me though, I would just run out of time. I was scared to mess up, but what I didn't realize is that not having any map control was me messing up. Like Mike, I've now learned to play for space, with it being the primary goal on every single map for both defense and attack. If you control more space as a team, there's more restriction on where your opponents can go safely. The more you can hold from one position, the more valuable that position becomes. It's like having rafters control on Clubhouse. With it, you can hold all of Garage with a massive advantage thanks to the cover provided by the rafters. But you can also contest the main breach, watch the walk into cache, and hold the top of red stairs. This space is extremely strong, but that goes for both attack and defense. Once the attackers control it, they can now cover all those same areas, making it much harder for the defense. Playing to protect this area on defense and trying to take control of it on attack will help you win this bomb site much easier. For Mike, he learned the hard way while trying to C4 a plant from below. When he rotated down, there was an attacker underneath holding that map control. This gave the attacker a free kill on Mike, who had no idea, and it stopped the planter from being C4'd. That kill is worth at least double the value of a regular kill, because it also stopped his teammate from getting killed. With him surviving, they got the diffuser planted and gained the time advantage too. That one kill on Mike truly is the difference between winning and losing that round. Not all kills are worth the same amount, but that's another thing that the scoreboard doesn't show. This newfound concept of map control was revolutionary for Mike. He blasted through gold and started climbing his way through platinum too. Keep in mind, this was over the course of multiple months. Mike didn't just learn these things in a day. He's been putting in the time and the energy to improve on the things that he's learned. This game just keeps changing though, and Mike's roams have started to become less effective. He's getting droned out more, and the enemy is more cautious when clearing the map. On his attacks, the other team has started contesting map control harder, and getting into the same strong positions has become much more difficult on his own. For being in a higher rank, you'd think he'd be getting better teammates to help, but they're still horrible too. Is there even anything Mike can do at this point, or is Platinum the final destination for him? Well, if he keeps blaming his teammates and thinks there's no way out of this hellscape, then yeah, Mike is probably stuck here forever. But this is Mike we're talking about. He's that fucking guy, and he's not done yet. It's time for Mike to get creative and learn something new to improve himself even more. He takes a look back at his old games and notices that something is a little off. His droning just doesn't seem quite right. For the longest time when I first started playing this game, I was droning completely wrong without even realizing it. I honestly didn't even really think about drones and just how powerful of a tool that they are. After studying pros though, I realized a ton of tricks to droning that skyrocketed my ability to get kills. And this is the fourth thing I really wish someone had explained to me sooner. The first thing I learned about drones is to keep them alive. Before entering a room, Mike has two options. The first is to walk into that room with no drone. If there is a defender hiding in that room, Mike's probably dead. But if he drones first, he now knows whether or not a defender is hiding there. That defender will shoot his drone, and Mike can decide whether to try and fight him knowing his general location, or he can just push somewhere else. Now let's back it up for a second to when Mike first droned out that room. This time we'll get him to do it very sneakily so that the defender doesn't even know that Mike droned him out. Because he isn't aware of the fact that Mike has information, he's going to keep hiding, hoping that someone walks by and doesn't check his spot. This is now the perfect opportunity for Mike to walk in and get an easy kill. This is what we call the awareness rule. Basically, if an enemy isn't aware that you have information on them, they will continue doing whatever it is they are doing. You can see this on defense too. If you have a default cam or val cam on someone who isn't moving, they'll probably remain in that position until they have something better to do. This gives you the opportunity to use the information to get the kill. If the enemy does realize that you have information on them, they will firstly get rid of that info and secondly change it to be inaccurate. For example, when Mike gets droned out, he shoots the drone, getting rid of the info. Then he moves into a new position or holds a different angle so that the information the drone gathered is inaccurate. The chances are pretty good you already know this and do it without even realizing. That's why the more Mike keeps his drone alive, the better he'll become. But how does he keep his drone alive more? Well, in my younger days of R6, I also had this problem. I would speedrun my drone death in the prep phase, jumping as much as possible for the speed boost and driving it straight into the enemy's ankles, basically just saying, hey man, don't forget to shoot the drones. This was obviously a mistake, because I was just sacrificing a perfectly good pre-placed drone for no reason at all. Instead, I learned the art of drone juking. That's not an actual term, I just made it up right now. Basically, instead of boosting and jumping the drone at the enemies, I started saving the boosts and jump charges for evading or juking the enemies. I drive the drone in slowly to quietly gather the information or find a good spot to hide it. If my drone did get spotted out by a defender, I'd use the jumps and boost at that point to get away and preserve the life of my drone. Drones can always be used later on in the round as long as they're alive. And as long as they're alive, you'll have the option to gather quality information for better decision making. Mike picked this up real quick, but he also learned to tuck and hide his drones away properly. You see, Mike had this really bad habit of seeing a defender in a bad spot and getting overly excited. He'd rush to get off the drone and try to get the kill as soon as possible. He thought to himself, he's in a bad spot, I've got to capitalize on this right now before he moves. And in that process, that defender would shoot Mike's drone, break free from the awareness rule, and move somewhere else. So this actually had the inverse effect, resulting in Mike dying as he tried to enter and pre-fire the defender who had already shot his drone and moved to another angle. I don't know how many times I've personally done this, but it's way more than I'd like to admit. But Mike has found much more success with this by simply taking the extra 2 seconds to tuck the drone away or hide it before going in for the kill. Not only does this keep the awareness rule in play, but it also allows him to double check the drone right before doing it to make sure the defender is exactly where he thinks. Even in the worst case scenario here, the defender leaves and Mike has gained the map control. If the defender does decide to come back, Mike will get the kill with his strong map presence. Mike has gone all the way to applying this tucking concept to his flank watch as well. Instead of leaving the drone in the middle of the open for the defender to see, he'll try and hide it somewhere, whether it's under a desk or even just the opposite direction of where they could flank from. Flanking defenders are some of the easiest kills in the game like this. Instead of shooting the drone and giving up on the flank, they don't even know that Mike knows that they're flanking. Following the awareness rule, they continue to flank, feeding right into his trap and giving him a free kill. But this is more than just one kill, it's also an alleviation of the flanking presence that the defender had. If they did shoot Mike's drone, they could still come back and flank at any point after that. This means he has to stay committed to the flank watch with his gun up, resulting in the team's push on the bomb site being weaker. Either that or he has to completely ignore the flank, leaving a massive gap that the defense can then take advantage of. So hide your drones like Mike, and as a result, you'll never get surprised on the flank again. The last and most massive mistake I always made when it came to droning was scanning the enemies on cameras. It's just one more thing that breaks the awareness rule, telling them, hey, I have information on you right now. They'll either start looking around for the drone or camera or just move away entirely. If they were standing in a bad position, I'd just miss out on a free kill. But scanning people can actually be a good thing, being a very useful tool at certain times. This is something that took me even longer to learn. Like I just mentioned, scanning can make them look around for the drone or camera, which is great for distracting opponents in the right moments. It can take their focus away from an angle for a very small period of time or cause them to stress out knowing that you have exact information on them. Mike uses this perfectly, scanning the defender as his teammate is pushing into them. Anytime someone is making a play, Mike starts scanning, hoping to divert their attention and increase the likelihood of his teammate's play actually working. Combining all these drone tactics, Mike managed to dominate map control with the perfect information to do it. He blasted through Platinum, pushing deep into Emerald. Just half a year ago, he was a heart-stuck Copper, but by transforming himself into a student of the game, he solo queued his way to just a few wins from Diamond. But there's one final thing that Mike still needs to learn, and it has to do with the main struggle he's been having this entire time. Something about those bad teammates. You see, as Mike got better, his teammates have too. But for him, every time he gets better, his newfound knowledge and experience makes those better teammates still seem bad from his perspective. The truth is, a lot of Mike's own misplays and mistakes are things that have made other people think that he's the one who's the bad teammate this entire time. But if Mike wants to get to champion, there's one cold hard truth that he needs to figure out. Everyone gets bad teammates, but the better team still wins. So Mike has to find a way to work with his team and be a good teammate even with bad teammates. It sounds impossible, it almost sounds like a joke, but it's true. The more Mike can improve his team's performance and work with them, the more successful he'll become. Mike needs to learn the fifth thing I wish someone explained to me sooner, which is how to be a truly good teammate. That's more than just picking support ops and making callouts. It's also about understanding how your team operates, their philosophies on the game, and where you fit into that puzzle. It's one thing to be able to adapt and counter the enemy team, but to get to champ, Mike needs to learn how to adapt and counter his own team. Understanding how your team plays might seem like rolling the dice. How could you possibly understand how your teammates think about and play the game in only a few rounds, let alone adapt to it in order to win? Well, with the right mindset, it's still not easy, but it's at least possible. Firstly, Mike needs to go into the very first round as a student. Now that he's developed his individual abilities, he can fall back on everything he's learned to play well on his own. But with champion opponents, he's going to be facing champion level teamwork, and he'll have to match that coordination with his random teammates if he wants to win. In round 1, Mike will study both his team's playstyle and the opponent's. Are they slow, fast, gun heavy, utility heavy? How exactly do they play? This is going to shine a light on their beliefs of the game, which most players tend to stick to. Because of this, Mike now knows both his team's philosophies on the game and the opponent's. If his team is very aggressive, Mike's going to do his best to match that level of aggression, swinging with his teammates to trade them out on kills and maintain map control. If they're using their mics and actually communicating, Mike can use this to his advantage to set up plays, making their strategies more in-depth and elaborate. Mike needs to be a leader without being a dictator. There's no need for him to correct his team's gameplay or try and make them better, he just needs to find their strengths and use them to his advantage. What Mike does next is incredible. He lets his team pick their operators and fills in the gaps when needed. He sets up plays, creates crossfires, and supports every area that requires it. He finds the weaknesses of the other team, exploits them, and gets the entire team on board. Mike has finally overcome his biggest struggle, the SoloQ lobbies of Rainbow Six Siege. He's done it. He's become an R6 champion.